Another episode of the Art Bros. Getting all graffiti on your ass. Well, yeah, anyway. Guys, another episode of the Art Bros. With me, Mike, as always. My partner in crime, Fancy Dave.
Hey.
And with us is our graffiti expert. He's been on the show a couple other times, and he's back to talk about, actually it was his idea to do this artist, King Robbo. So here's Julian Santos.
Thank you for having me again. And
Yeah.
I wouldn't call myself an expert, I just call myself a stupid vandalist guy.
So our expert vandalist is here, and we're talking about King Robbo. Well, we're talking about him because he passed away recently.
Yeah, he passed away recently, which was actually came as a shock to most, but to some other he didn't, because he was in comatose stage for a while.
Yeah, he was in a coma for like 3 years.
Yeah,
and
man,
Damn, 3 years.
yeah, he was just found on the street actually.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, he was found on the street, and they say it's like because he fell or he got hit by the head, and he led to that state. But
Well, he passed, but today we're going to do sort of a mini retrospective on the work of King Robbo, London-based graffiti artist. Right now we're looking at this thing that says, "Come on, Robbo." Beautiful, beautiful mural. Looks huge.
It seems huge. It most likely is, and it has amazing color. The thing about you need a retrospective is because he's like any other artist. He had different stages. He had different types of ways to create his graffiti art, just like the one you see over, which is typical wild style, colors everywhere, right in your face.
I really like it.
You cannot just pass by it and ignore it.
Mhm.
Even if it's a day, you have to notice it somehow.
It's so vibrant. It's
Bold.
so vibrant. And yeah, it's gold. It's in your face. It's great. And so, I don't know where to go from here.
No, well, you can talk about it as in the art piece. He has visual flow from it. He has everything. He has echoing of color. He has everything. Even as an art student, is right there, which goes into show that actually, again, the graffiti, even graffiti that is not a street art, it's not just stencils, can be considered as art because of how amazing it is in every single aspect it has on it.
So a little history about King Robbo here. He originally came on the scene in London, inspired by the graffiti movement in New York in the late 70s and early 80s. Something like,
So
us
he's
being
old school.
Yeah, he's old school. So
Yeah.
us being from New York, we know a little bit about that, the rebellion of the urban youth and whatnot, painting on trains and whatnot.
I think there's some documents of him, actually, pictures of his work in the New York City subway system.
There you go. Yeah. So
If you visit his website.
yeah, so we got this King Robbo guy coming in the UK, doing kind of like inspired by. In the early 80s, we see some of his original work is done on trains and whatnot, and under canals and bridges. It's pretty urban, right? Anything you wanted to add on the early Robbo?
Not really, just how much his work changed and how, you'll see, of course, how his work changed from his regular tag to this you see right now.
Right. So, we got like pretty much a standard early graffiti
Wild style here.
right now. And we move on in the 90s. We actually, what he's pretty much well known for is feuding with Banksy. Now,
Yep.
Banksy is pretty much on the other side of this whole graffiti war thing.
Yeah, okay, Robbo was underground. He, just like Banksy, even though he mentioned it right now. Yeah, he didn't show his face, but he was not known. He did not sell his art. He did not, became to that mainstream that Banksy did.
Right.
And so there was a piece that King Robbo had under a canal, I believe it was, or under a bridge, I forgot, that even though it was on bad stage, Banksy covered it.
So this feud that Robbo is known for was pretty much, from what we know, started by Banksy.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Even though he claims like, the wall was on bad state, but even that, to an extent, on even regular street or artists, I'd say it's like, well, you're tagging you're fully covering another piece.
That's like a no-no. Like you completely covered this guy's work.
Go to a museum and just go with a Sharpie and draw on top of
Stepping on someone's Nikes.
Yeah, you're stepping on his Nikes. Now, a funny story about the whole feud is when these two got introduced to each other in like 90 or 91, Robbo talked to Banksy, said, "Hey, I've heard of you, man. How are you doing?" And Banksy said, "You've heard of me. I never heard of you."
And then
so Robbo slapped him.
Well, you haven't heard of me, but
now you'll never forget me.
You'll not forget me now, will you? It's just like British people say.
Yeah.
That's how the story goes. But then Banksy come out with saying like, "Well, I've never met him. Whoever you slap, you deserve to slap, whatever." But hey, who knows? Maybe he did, maybe he didn't.
Yeah, that's all rumors of speculation. And so we have it's an interesting dynamic. We got a underground graffiti artist who's very loyal to his work, doesn't sell it, doesn't go into galleries and whatnot. Yeah. He remains very under the radar. And then we have Banksy, who's the complete opposite. Mainstream, gets big in London, moves on to like overseas to America.
LA.
Yeah, LA mostly. Yeah, so it's really interesting. Like this feud is coming from that whole like rich versus poor angle, the whole art versus selling out sort of thing.
Yeah, to an extent. And then actually King Robbo had a show later on, and he was actually even his own fans, his own teams to an extent turned their back on him because he was going to the show, and then he became this whole selling out feud that is still going on forever.
Yeah, wow. So the feud is pretty much still going on between both parties.
To an extent, I mean, between the both parties, since King Robbo's passing, may he rest in peace, and then before that, Banksy said, well, the feud, whatever, was over and all that nonsense, because to an extent they were acting like childs. They were painting over their own stuff, and then the wall was painted black because somebody was just tired of it.
Somebody was
just tired of two grown-ass men acting like kids. But so the feud was diminished over, but it just became mostly like between fans against each other, just like
that's what's gonna happen. Like both guys have like these loyalists, and even Robbo has inspired his whole team called Team Robbo, and they, I'm sure, will in some aspect continue the feud against Banksy's crew.
Yeah,
Sharks versus Jets, man. But it is. Yeah. So the feud is such an interesting piece of graffiti history, especially between these two legends. But we should talk more a little about Robbo himself, because we don't want people just knowing him for the feud. The guy was an amazing artist.
Yeah, I'm tired of Banksy. Just like we said, Robbo was such an amazing artist. His work was not only wild style itself and regular tagging, but he also did a piece for Lenny Kravitz's daughter,
Angel from X-Men First Class.
That's who she is now. She did a piece for her when she came out with a movie, which is monumental. It's freaking huge, and it's just no stencil work. So it's not people consider stencil cheating. So this was no stencil.
So what I'm looking at right now is not a stencil work.
No,
damn,
it's free.
It's like old school. Like you take a picture, you make a grid of it, and then you translate the grid into a bigger piece, and little by little you create this thing. The old school way of creating, changing an image to something bigger and bigger.
I want to know is what is Leonard Kravitz's daughter like? What does Zoe Kravitz think about this?
She actually they show him in the interview that she loved the whole piece itself.
And I wonder if she knew about it, or did she just wake up and whoa?
No, they commissioned Robbo into doing it.
Oh, okay.
And commissioned Robbo into doing it, and I think she knew about it, but she didn't see the progress. Maybe she saw the final piece itself. It was amazing, and they were so glad about it. I think it was promoting a movie that she was doing.
And the best part is this is kind of the peak of Robbo's career, because in 2011 was a huge year for him.
Yeah,
he's got this commission. He's got his own retrospective show. It's like a Team Robbo show, I believe, actually. They're setting up for that year.
Had a lot of different types of work, and then he was actually, after this, he was asked to come up to the red carpet Which he went with a whole mask cover himself because
Right.
they can't show their face.
I wonder if it was actually him or if it was just like some dude he hired to go.
No, if it was most like, if I would do it, it was most like, it would be me going. But there's that whole thing that you could get in trouble for it.
Yeah.
Of course. Yeah, of course.
I mean, this is just completely legal. I mean, this one was legal, but the one before was illegal. It's like finding you out after committing tons and tons of crimes. The police guys are like, well, you're kind of screwed now, man.
Yeah, that's true. So, all in all, this guy, Robbo, a huge piece, huge for London art scene, especially the graffiti scene. Dave, what
Yes.
are your thoughts on Mr. King Robbo here? What comes to your head?
Very old school. I really respect people that keep to their independence, especially if they can maintain it for so long as well.
Yeah.
So I guess that's admirable in a way, at least for me.
I think that's the thing that stays with me the most about Robbo's work. Obviously, I didn't really know about the guy until Julian brought him to my attention, but I did notice that theme throughout the whole of his career when I was, looking this guy up.
Mm-hmm.
This guy really remained underground for the most part.
Yeah.
Like
later in his life.
yeah, like later in his life, obviously he needs to make some money off of this stuff, and he starts merchandising and whatnot.
It's
But
an opportunity of like him becoming more and people being aware of it.
yeah.
But yeah, he was just such a great artist. Even though just like we saw, he's such a versatile artist. I think that's the correct word. He could make so much different things, and if you just Google him, you see his work everywhere. Like from how it got up to the level that the first piece was. How it started with just regular tagging, and then little by little start blowing up into wild style, and
Mm-hmm.
he just since he's a known artist, as you can Google most street artists from New York, you can tell them from the old school and how they got to the level of being recognized. It's like seeing seeing Picasso's sketches, and then for him to his sketches from zero to cubism, you see that evolution of an artist and how much of
Yeah, just like Picasso went through his like blue period, his cubic period, all that stuff. Robbo kind of went through the same thing, and that's honestly a really awesome way to see that. Like just like any other classical artist or any contemporary artist,
street graffiti art.
it's just graffiti art. He's in that category, and he's always will forever be in that category.
Yep.
So, guys, what are our final thoughts on this little mini retrospective we have? Dave, do you have any final thoughts on Mr. Robbo?
Oh, you know me, Mike. I like him.
Like it. Julian, say your piece.
Yes, I will. I fail as a graffiti artist. I am going to be honest with you. I cannot do this huge lettering because it scares the hell out of me, intimidates the hell out of me. Stencil work that I like, Banksy or like any other artist, like Lorette before, it's easier, it's faster, and it's in a way cheating because the piece is there and I can make it and it's perfectly fine. But doing this huge monumental wild style has always intimidated me because of failure, and in that sense, Robbo just has huge amounts of respect coming from me as a graffiti artist, as an artist itself. Yeah.
Yeah, and for me, I recently saw an exhibit with a bunch of New York graffiti in the late 70s, early 80s, and whatnot, and this stuff really fits in right in there. He took a lot of inspiration from the New York movement, but he kind of created his own. He took it to London. They say he's the father of the street graffiti movement in London. Maybe that's true, maybe that's not. But he definitely created his own style. Definitely stayed true to his roots. Obviously he didn't think he was better than anybody else. Like when it comes to the feud with Banksy, I see it more as of he's not saying, "Hey Banksy, I'm better than you." He's saying, "Hey Banksy, you're no better than us."
Maybe Jackson. That's actually sounds dope.
Yeah.
I read online this line that I actually want to end it with, if I may.
Okay.
There's a thin line between professional street artists and graffiti punks. King Robbo might describe himself as both. I think I said it at first, and I will end it as well. Because it just is.
It's badass. Yeah.
Pretty dope, man.
So guys, I think that pretty much concludes this episode. People listening, this guy is worth research. There's a cool documentary called Graffiti Wars that highlights the whole Banksy and Robbo feud. It's definitely worth the look. Just Google him. Yeah.
Pretty dope.
So, anyways, from the Art Bros, Mike, Fancy Dave, and Julian.
Don't do this in the streets though, because you will get in trouble in this.
So don't try this at home.
All right, guys.
You want to call your mom or freaking under jail, man.
Okay.
So we will see you next time on the Art Bros. All right, guys. Peace out.
Later.